Blue light split the night open. The cruiser's siren wailed once, sharp and absolute, before fading into the quiet hum of the empty suburban road. The air smelled like rain on asphalt, wet, metallic, waiting. Marcus Hale's hands tightened on the steering wheel. His pulse thudded in his throat. The dashboard clock blinked 11:42 p.m. He had left a charity gala 20 minutes ago, still in his tailored suit, his mayoral pin glinting under the dash lights. The flashlight beam hit his rearview mirror, blinding him. A heavy hand wrapped the window. License and registration. Marcus lowered the glass slowly. "Evening, officer. May I ask why I'm—" "Step out of the car." The officer cut in, hand hovering above his holster. Marcus froze. "Excuse me?" "Now!" The word cracked like a whip. Marcus stepped out, the cold air biting his face. The officer, young, white, tense, circled him like prey. A second cruiser rolled up, tires crunching. Another cop emerged, arms crossed, smirking. "Nice ride," the first one said. "You borrow it?" Marcus's jaw flexed. "I'm Mayor Hale. This is my car." "It's a beat," the second officer snorted. "Sure you are," a radio hissed. A dispatcher's voice murmured something indistinct. The first officer's flashlight dropped to Marcus's ID. His face went slack. The silence stretched too long. Marcus watched him, heart pounding, rage and humiliation tightening in his chest. Then the officer whispered, "Oh, hell." From the radio came a new sound. "All units. Possible situation at..." The message cut out. The flashlight flickered. Marcus turned toward the second cruiser. Its door was open, empty. And somewhere in the dark, another voice said, cold and certain, "Too late to fix this." The night was clean and quiet, the kind of silence that hummed under the streetlights. Marcus Hale's sedan glided down Cypress Avenue, his mind still half in the echoes of speeches and clinking glasses. Then the red and blue flash tore through the dark. He braked, blinked once, checked his mirrors. The cruiser behind him didn't pass. It clung to him. Marcus pulled over. Engine idled. Street lamp glare washed across his windshield like cold milk. He rolled the window down as footsteps approached. Measured, deliberate, license and registration. The officer's tone carried the weight of assumption. Marcus handed over his documents. "Evening, officer. May I ask what—" "Headlights out," the man said. His light beam swept Marcus's face, lingering longer than necessary. "You live around here?" "Yes," Marcus replied evenly. 15 years. "What's your badge number, officer?" "Carter," he snapped. "Step out of the car." Marcus hesitated. "For a headlight?" Carter's hand hovered near his holster. "Step out." A horn blared somewhere distant. A dog barked. The world shrank to breath and flashing light. Marcus opened the door slowly, stepping into the chill. "Turn around." "Is this necessary?" "Don't talk." Carter patted him down, rough and impersonal. Another cruiser rolled up. A second cop leaned against it, watching. "Nice suit," the second one said. "Where's the party?" Marcus inhaled through his nose. "City event." "Oh yeah? Which one?" "The mayor's charity gala." Carter's laugh was short. "You must have snuck in." Marcus turned his head slightly, voice low. "No, I hosted it." For a moment, silence broke the scene apart. The second cop straightened. "What did you say?" Carter frowned, looking at the ID. His flashlight trembled slightly. "This says..." He blinked. "Marcus Hale." "Yes," Marcus said. "Mayor Hale?" Carter stepped back. His throat worked. You're... Is there a problem, officer?" The question landed like a slap. Behind them, a phone camera light blinked on. Someone across the street was filming. Carter's composure faltered. "Sir, I didn't..." Marcus's gaze hardened. "You did." The second officer shifted uneasily. "Ryan, let's..." But the sound of the radio cut through. "Urgent. All units. Possible incident at..." Static drowned the rest. Carter dropped the ID. It hit the pavement, small and sharp. Marcus didn't move to pick it up. His voice was calm, but it carried an edge like glass. Now the city gets to see what its protectors look like in the dark. The camera's red light blinked again. Then, screeching tires. Another cruiser. Another set of lights. And Marcus realized the night wasn't over. Morning light filtered through the blinds in thin, fractured stripes. Marcus sat at his kitchen table, staring at his untouched coffee. The aroma was bitter, grounding. But the world outside had shifted overnight. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Notifications cascaded down the screen. News alerts, text messages, missed calls. Mayor Hale stopped by police. Video goes viral. Racial profiling in Crestwood. Officer under review. He scrolled once, then stopped. The video was everywhere. 37 seconds, grainy, flashing lights, tense voices. His own face, calm but tight, surrounded by authority that refused to see him as one of theirs. He closed the phone. The silence that followed was worse than the noise. A knock at the door. Sharp, official. Marcus opened it to find a familiar face, Linda Cooper, his chief of staff. Her expression was a mix of concern and calculation. "Marcus, we need to talk." He stepped aside. "You've seen it." "Everyone's seen it," she said, setting her tablet on the counter. "Council's calling an emergency session. The governor's office wants a statement before noon." He leaned against the counter, the polished wood cold under his palms. "They want a statement or they want me quiet?" Linda hesitated. "They're asking you to de-escalate. They're saying don't make this about race." Marcus gave a short laugh, humorless. "It is about race," she looked down. "I know, but politics," he cut her off. "Politics is the reason I can't breathe freely in my own city without flashing lights in my mirror." Silence hung between them. Finally, Linda said, "The police department's issued a preliminary comment. They're calling it a routine traffic stop gone wrong." Marcus's eyes flicked to her tablet. "Gone wrong for who?" She didn't answer. The phone buzzed again. Caller ID, Councilman Rhodes. Marcus ignored it. Linda's voice softened. "They'll try to spin this. Make you look angry, impulsive. They'll call for unity while protecting the system that did this to you." He stared at the blinds where sunlight cut through in uneven lines. Bars of light, bars of shadow. "I won't let them rewrite it." The next call came from a reporter. Then another. Then 3 more. Questions overlapped. "Do you feel targeted? Will you demand the officer's firing? Are you planning a lawsuit?" Marcus answered none. His silence was strategy. Words mishandled could be weaponized faster than bullets. By noon, the city's social feeds burned. Hashtags multiplied. Protesters gathered outside City Hall carrying signs, some with his name, some with his face. The police department released a statement at 2 p.m. Mayor Hale was treated with respect. No excessive force was used. The video said otherwise. At 3 p.m., Marcus met the city council in private session. The chamber smelled of polished wood and faint cologne. 8 men and women sat around the oval table. White faces mostly, watching him with the polite distance of people terrified of public outrage. Councilman Rhodes cleared his throat. "Mayor Hale, we all agree the optics are unfortunate. Optics," Marcus said evenly. Rhodes smiled thinly. "We want to avoid deepening division. The city's reputation is already national news," Marcus interrupted. "Because one of your officers couldn't see past his prejudice." A ripple of discomfort ran through the room. Councilwoman Janine Harper spoke next. "We understand your anger, sir, but please, let's focus on solutions. Perhaps a statement of unity? Something about healing?" Marcus's voice dropped low. "Healing requires truth. Truth requires exposure." Rhodes leaned forward, fingers steepled. "Marcus, with respect, you can't fight the entire department. Not and keep your office." Marcus met his gaze, steady. "Then I'll lose it telling the truth." The room fell silent. Rhodes sighed. "We'll schedule a press conference tomorrow. Keep it controlled. No improvisation." Marcus stood, buttoning his jacket. "Controlled is what got us here." He left before they could answer. Outside, the city buzzed, reporters clustered near the steps, microphones like bayonets. A woman shouted, "Mayor Hale, are you pressing charges?" He didn't stop. A teenager in the crowd held up a phone, showing the video replaying again and again. Marcus caught his own face frozen mid-glare, headlights blazing behind him. He felt something tighten in his chest. Not fear, but clarity. The system thrived on silence. He wouldn't feed it. Back home, evening shadows stretched across his living room. The day had eaten itself. He poured a glass of water, sat and let the exhaustion settle. On the muted TV, the news anchor spoke. Sources say the officer involved has been placed on administrative leave pending review. Administrative leave. A paid pause for violence. Marcus exhaled through his nose. The words echoed from earlier. Don't make this about race. But the video, the world, already had. His phone buzzed once more. An unknown number. He answered, a man's voice cautious. Mayor Hale? This is Officer Ryan Carter. Marcus froze. I just wanted to say, a pause. The voice cracked slightly. You weren't supposed to see what happens behind the badge. The line went dead. Marcus sat still, the phone cooling in his hand. Outside, sirens wailed again. Not distant this time. Moving closer. Officer Ryan Carter hadn't slept. The video had burned its way across every screen in the station by morning. Someone had looped it on mute in the break room. Marcus Hale's calm face under flashing lights. Carter's voice cutting through. Step out of the car. Then the silence, the sudden recognition. Then the freeze frame that made him infamous overnight. He sat at his desk, staring at the half-finished incident report. The cursor blinked. His supervisor, Sergeant Phelps, loomed behind him, arms crossed. Make sure it's clean, Phelps said. Carter didn't look up. Clean? Language matters. Don't admit fault, don't editorialize. Keep it by the book. Carter typed mechanically. Traffic stop initiated for suspected equipment violation. Subject became agitated, his fingers hovered. He wasn't agitated. Phelps's voice sharpened. Write the report, Carter. Silence thickened. The office smelled of burnt coffee and printer toner. The low hum of radios filled the background. Carter swallowed. He was the mayor. Then you should have known better than to pull him over, Phelps said flatly. Now we all clean up, Carter finally turned. I did what we're trained to do. Phelps leaned closer. What you're trained to do is not get caught doing it. The words landed like a slap. Across the room, another officer chuckled. Hey, Carter, how's your PR team doing? Laughter rippled, small and cruel. Carter stood abruptly. That's enough. Relax, the officer said. We're just saying wrong guy, wrong night happens. Carter walked out before he said something worse. The hallway walls seemed to close in. Rows of framed commendations, pictures of smiling officers shaking hands with politicians. One of them was Hale 2 years ago, presenting a grant check to the department. Carter stared at it. The irony felt poisonous. He pushed open the door to the locker room. Inside, the air was damp, heavy with disinfectant. He sat on the bench, face in his hands. The door creaked open again. Lieutenant Shaw entered, slow and deliberate. You're a trending topic, Carter. Not the kind I wanted. Shaw shrugged. Press is calling it racial profiling. You know the department's stance. Routine procedure, Carter said bitterly. Exactly, and that's the line we stick to. Carter looked up. You're telling me to lie. I'm telling you to survive, Shaw said. The chief wants your cooperation. Internal affairs will handle the paperwork. Just stay quiet. The mayor's office will move on when the headlines do. Carter rubbed his temples. He's not like the others. Shaw tilted his head. You mean he's powerful? Carter didn't respond. Look, Shaw said, lowering his voice. We all make judgment calls. Don't turn this into a crusade. You talk too much, you'll take everyone down with you. Carter met his eyes. Maybe that's the problem. Shaw's face hardened. Careful? That kind of talk sounds like guilt. When Shaw left, the silence returned. Thick, suffocating. Carter stared at his reflection in the locker mirror. His uniform looked the same, but the badge gleamed differently now, like a threat instead of protection. He drove home in daylight for the first time in weeks. The neighborhood was quiet. Suburban neatness, trimmed lawns, flagpoles. A few neighbors peeked through curtains. He could feel their stares. At home, the news played on the TV. Officer involved in racially charged traffic stop identified as Ryan Carter, age 32. His wife, Dana, muted the volume. Her face was pale. Ryan, what did you do? He sank into a chair. My job, she hesitated. Your job shouldn't look like that on camera. He didn't answer. The room smelled like burnt toast and anxiety. Dana turned off the TV. They're saying he's pressing charges. He's not, Carter muttered. He wants truth. Then tell it, she said quietly. Carter looked at her. You don't understand. If I do, they'll bury me. She folded her arms. Then maybe you deserve to be buried. The words hit harder than any reprimand. That night, Carter sat in his patrol car parked under the shadow of an overpass. He scrolled through the video again, this time with sound. His own voice filled the car, sharp, impatient. The flashlight beam, the command, the disbelief when he saw the ID. He watched himself becoming the thing he swore he wasn't. The radio crackled. Unit 12, respond to. He switched it off. The silence roared. In that stillness, Carter finally said aloud, to no one. He looked at me like I was the system. Maybe I am. The words lingered unclaimed. And somewhere across town, the mayor was preparing to speak. The rotunda of City Hall buzzed with low voices. Camera flashes and the subtle electric tension of spectacle. Reporters clustered like vultures near the podium. Microphones angled forward. The seal of Crestwood glimmered behind it, a symbol of order now stained by the weight of controversy. Marcus Hale stood just out of sight behind the curtain. He adjusted his tie, his reflection caught in the dark glass of a framed city map. His face looked older, sharper. Exhaustion had carved itself into the corners of his eyes, but his stance remained iron straight. Linda approached, tablet in hand. They're ready, he nodded. Let's do it. Stick to the statement, she murmured. Don't engage. Marcus didn't answer. He stepped forward into the wash of lights. The crowd stirred. The murmurs hushed into that delicate silence before spectacle begins. Good morning, he said, voice steady. Last night an incident occurred between myself and a member of our police department. Cameras clicked in rhythm. I was pulled over without cause. I was treated not as an elected official, not as a man of this city, but as a threat. That experience, unfortunately, is not unique. A few heads lifted, interest sharpened. I stand before you today not as a victim, but as evidence, Marcus continued. Evidence that bias isn't a rumor. It's infrastructure. A flash went off directly in his face. He didn't blink. A reporter called out, cutting through the script. Mayor Hale, are you accusing the police of racism? Marcus looked directly at her. I'm acknowledging reality. The room rustled. Another reporter jumped in. Sir, what message do you want to send to law enforcement who feel unfairly judged by this? That accountability isn't judgment, Marcus said. It's the foundation of trust. Behind the cameras, a few officers in uniform watched. Their expressions were blank, lips pressed thin. Marcus continued, his tone measured but charged. This isn't just about one officer. It's about a culture that assumes guilt before asking names. It's about who gets the benefit of doubt and who gets the barrel of a flashlight in their eyes. The quote landed. He could feel it. The collective inhale of the room, the sound of pens scratching faster. Mr. Mayor, another reporter called. Are you seeking disciplinary action against Officer Carter? Marcus paused, eyes narrowing slightly. I'm seeking the truth. Whatever follows will belong to it. From the side of the room, Chief Dalton of the Crestwood Police Department stood watching, jaw tight, expression unreadable. He whispered something to an aide who slipped out of the chamber. Linda gave a subtle shake of her head from the sidelines. Don't push further. Marcus ignored it. The city deserves transparency. I will not participate in another cycle of denial and delayed investigations that end in paid vacations and press statements about misunderstandings. The crowd erupted in overlapping voices. Questions shouted. Flashes flaring. Mayor Hale, are you accusing the department of a cover-up? Do you fear political retaliation? He raised a hand. Silence fell. This is not about fear. It's about duty. My duty is to the citizens of Crestwood, all of them. Those who wear the uniform and those who fear it. He stepped back from the podium. Linda moved quickly to his side. That was not the controlled message we agreed on. He glanced at her, tone flat. Controlled messages protect institutions, not people. As they left the stage, the press surged, shouting questions. A microphone brushed his shoulder. Mayor Hale, do you think Officer Carter's apology is genuine? Marcus stopped mid-step. What apology? The reporter blinked.
His statement went live 10 minutes ago. Linda tapped her tablet, scrolling.
A headline flashed. Officer Ryan Carter. I never meant for things to go that way. I respect Mayor Hale deeply. Below it, Carter's photo, clean-shaven, uniform pressed, eyes weary. Marcus's stomach turned. Damage control, he muttered. Linda whispered. He's trying to stay employed. Marcus exhaled slowly. Or he's being used. Outside, the sunlight was harsh. The crowd outside City Hall had doubled since morning. Protesters holding signs that read, Justice for the mayor and accountability, not excuses. Carter watched the conference replay on a mounted TV inside the precinct lounge. The mayor's words echoed through the speakers. Around him, other officers muttered, grandstanding, making it political. He'll hang us all to look righteous. Carter said nothing. He only stared at the screen. The replay paused on Marcus's face, eyes hard, voice mid-sentence. The image didn't look like an enemy. It looked like a mirror. Sergeant Phelps entered the room. Carter, Chief wants you. Carter followed him into the chief's office. Chief Dalton sat behind his desk, eyes cold, posture relaxed. Sit, Dalton said. Carter obeyed. You're officially on administrative leave. With pay, effective immediately. Carter's jaw tensed. Sir, You'll keep quiet. No interviews, no statements. We'll handle PR. Carter's fingers curled on his knee. He's telling the truth. Dalton's gaze lifted slowly. What did you say? Carter swallowed hard. The mayor. He didn't do anything wrong. Dalton leaned forward, voice low. You're either part of this department or you're against it. Choose carefully. Silence. Carter rose from his seat. Maybe that's the problem, Chief. Too many people already chose wrong. Dalton's expression turned to stone. Get out. Carter walked out, each step heavier than the last. Back in City Hall, Marcus stood at his office window watching the city pulse below. Protesters moved like tides, chants echoing faintly through the glass. He whispered to himself. Voice almost inaudible. Let's see how long they can hide behind the badge. And far across town, in a darkened office, Chief Dalton made a phone call. Get the footage, he said. The real one. Before someone else does. The next morning, City Hall's marble floors echoed with footsteps. Aides, press liaisons, legal counsel. Every conversation sounded rehearsed, every smile strained. The video had reached the national networks. The story had escaped containment. Marcus Hale stood at the edge of the conference table in the mayor's office, surrounded by the city's senior officials. The blinds were drawn, the room closed off from the sound of chanting outside. Mayor Hale, City Attorney Foster began, his tone smoothed to bureaucratic calm. We appreciate your presence today. Our objective is clarity, not escalation. Marcus crossed his arms. Escalation already happened. I'm here for accountability. Chief Dalton sat opposite him, hands clasped on the table. His uniform was immaculate. Mayor, I understand your frustration. Officer Carter's actions are under review. Internal Affairs is handling it. Handling it, Marcus repeated. You mean burying it under procedure? Dalton's eyes flickered, but his voice remained steady. We follow policy. That's not concealment, that's governance. Linda shifted beside Marcus. Chief, policy shouldn't shield misconduct. The public's seen the footage. Dalton nodded slightly. The edited footage, Ms. Cooper, context matters. We can't judge an officer's actions based on a viral clip. Marcus leaned forward, then released the full video. The silence that followed was immediate and telling. Attorney Foster cleared his throat. There are privacy concerns, Mayor. Whose privacy? Marcus asked. The officers or the department's? Dalton's jaw tensed. You're politicizing this. Marcus's voice lowered, sharp. You made it political the second you tried to erase it. The chief's composure cracked for half a second. Just enough for the tension in the room to change shape. Fear mixing with control. Foster interjected smoothly. Mayor Hale, an independent committee will review the incident. We suggest you allow the process to proceed. Transparency is best served through due diligence. Marcus exhaled through his nose. Due diligence hasn't saved anyone who looks like me from flashing lights and false reports. Linda's phone buzzed quietly. She glanced down, another news alert. She passed it discreetly to Marcus. The headline glared. Anonymous source claims police department edited body cam footage. Marcus's gaze snapped back to Dalton. That true? Dalton didn't blink. Rumors. We don't comment on speculation. Marcus stepped closer to the table. Then comment now. On record, Foster raised a hand. Let's maintain professionalism. No, Marcus said, voice cutting through. Professionalism is the mask that hides truth. Dalton rose from his chair. Mayor, I don't appreciate the insinuation that my department engages in conspiracy. Marcus matched his stance. Then prove it. Dalton stared at him for a long beat, then smiled thinly. You're walking a fine line, sir. The department has allies in this city. Marcus's reply came calm and lethal. So does the truth. The room fractured into murmurs. Dalton gathered his notes, signaling the meeting's end. As officials filed out, Linda touched Marcus's arm. "You just declared war." He didn't look at her. "No, I just refused to surrender." Outside the conference room, the air felt heavier. The protests were louder now, chants echoing through the streets. No more silence. "No more lies!" Marcus stopped by a window. Below, citizens filled the plaza, students, elders, parents. Some held signs that read "Body cams don't lie." Others chanted his name. He didn't feel pride. Only gravity. Behind him, Foster's voice carried faintly through the cracked door. "If this keeps up, we'll lose donors. We can't let the mayor dismantle trust in the police." Dalton's response was low but clear. "Trust isn't the problem. Exposure is," Marcus heard it. He turned away, silent. Later that evening, Linda walked into his office carrying a folder. "Anonymous email," sent to our inbox. "Encrypted link." He opened the folder. Inside, a single printed line. "You want the truth?" Watch Marcus click the link on his computer. A video player loaded. The footage was raw, uncut body cam video. His stop, his own voice calm. Carter's commands sharper now, edged with something colder. The part that had been deleted from public release. Carter muttering into his radio. "He's got attitude. Might be one of those types." Then laughter from the second officer. Marcus's hands clenched. The rest played out in brutal clarity. He sat back, the glow of the screen painting his face pale blue. Linda whispered, "We can leak it." Marcus stared at the screen. "Not yet. Why not?" "Because I want to see what they do when they think it's buried." He clicked the monitor off. The room went black except for the streetlight outside, cutting through the blinds like slats of judgment. Across town, in his darkened living room, Carter watched the same video. Someone had sent it to him too. He muttered under his breath. They said they'd cut that part out. And somewhere between them, mayor and officer, the same truth sat like a loaded weapon, waiting to be fired. The rain came hard that night. Sheets of water slamming against the glass of City Hall, washing the streets clean in everything but truth. Marcus Hale stood by his office window, jacket off, tie loosened, staring at the reflection of a man who looked like he hadn't slept in days. The leaked footage still looped in his mind. Carter's voice, the slur buried under radio static. The second officer's laughter. It was evidence, undeniable and vile. And yet the city's official statement had been silence. A knock on the door. Linda stepped in, umbrella still dripping. "They know the video's out. Internal Affairs wants a meeting. Tomorrow morning." Marcus didn't turn. "Let them wait." "They won't," she said quietly. "The chief's already spinning it. Claims it's fabricated. Says the timestamp's wrong." Marcus finally looked at her. "They're trying to bury it alive." Linda hesitated. "And Carter?" "What about him?" "He's been calling. Left messages. Says he needs to talk to you." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I have nothing to say to him." Linda placed her phone on the desk. "Then maybe listen. He might be the only one who will tell you the truth before this turns into open war." Marcus said nothing, just stared at the phone. Minutes passed. Then he picked it up. "Meet me," he said. They met in a near-empty parking garage under a shuttered shopping complex. The fluorescent lights flickered, casting long, unsteady shadows. The air smelled of oil and rust. Carter arrived in plain clothes, hands shoved into his jacket pockets. He looked smaller than Marcus remembered. Less like a threat, more like a man unraveling. "Mayor Hale," he said quietly. Marcus's voice was low, controlled. "You wanted to talk?" Carter nodded once. "I didn't leak the footage." "I swear, I know who did," Marcus said. "That's not what this is about." Carter looked confused. "Then what is?" Marcus stepped closer. "You said something to me that night. You weren't supposed to see what happens behind the badge, and then what did you mean?" Carter looked down, exhaled hard. "You think it's just one bad cop? It's all of us. The rules, the culture. We're trained to fear, to assume. Every briefing starts with survive the night. We don't see citizens. We see threats. And when you build a system on fear, justice doesn't fit anywhere in it." Marcus studied him. "And now that system's turning on you." Carter's laugh was dry. "Yeah, I followed orders. Then I got thrown under the bus when those same orders hit daylight." Marcus's eyes narrowed. Orders like falsifying your report? Carter flinched. They told me to say you were agitated. Said it'd smooth the paperwork. And you agreed. I didn't know you were the mayor. That's the point, officer. You didn't need to know. Silence stretched between them. The flickering light buzzed overhead, punctuating the space like static. Carter finally said, I'm not racist. Marcus's gaze hardened. That's not the defense you think it is. Carter frowned. Then what do you want from me? I want you to see that good intentions don't erase bad systems, Marcus said. His voice rose, not in anger, but conviction. You think saying I didn't mean it changes the way you looked at me that night? The way you reached for your holster before you asked my name? Carter swallowed hard. I was scared. Marcus took a step closer. So was I. The words landed heavy. For a long time, neither man spoke. The sound of rain echoed through the open structure, relentless and cold. Finally, Carter said, They're coming for me next. Internal Affairs wants a statement, but Dalton's already writing it. If I don't read what they hand me, I'm finished. Marcus stared at him. You were finished the moment you stopped thinking for yourself. Carter's voice broke slightly. You don't get it. They'll destroy me. They'll destroy my wife. Marcus turned to leave. Then maybe tell the truth before they decide what it is for you. Carter's hand shot out, grabbing Marcus's sleeve. You think truth fixes anything? It'll burn everything down. Marcus looked him dead in the eyes. Then maybe it needs to. The echo of their words hung in the concrete space. Carter let go, shaking his head. You'll never understand what it's like to be trapped in a system that eats its own. Marcus paused. You're wrong. I live in one every day. He walked toward his car, the sound of his footsteps sharp against the wet concrete. Carter called after him. What happens now? Marcus didn't look back. You decide which side of the story you're on. Later that night, Marcus sat in his darkened office, replaying the conversation. His anger had cooled into something colder. Resolve. He opened his laptop and typed a message to a journalist he trusted. There's unedited footage. The department's hiding it. You'll have it by morning. He hit send. At the same time, across town, Carter sat in his car outside his precinct, watching the rain slide down the windshield. His phone buzzed and a text from an unknown number. If you talk, your career ends. If you stay quiet, you keep your pension. Choose wisely. He closed his eyes. The screen's light flickered against his face like judgment. He typed a reply, paused, then deleted it. In City Hall, Marcus finally leaned back, exhaustion settling like lead in his chest. He looked toward the window. The city lights reflected on the glass like fractured stars. He whispered to himself, almost inaudible, let them come. Outside, thunder rolled, and in the shadows of the precinct basement, Chief Dalton handed an evidence bag to a man in a gray suit. Get rid of it, he said, before anyone else sees it. Morning came brittle and gray, the kind of light that made everything look tired. City Hall buzzed like a disturbed hive. Reporters crowded the steps, cameras flashing, microphones thrust forward. Inside, Marcus Hale walked down the corridor flanked by security. The air smelled of coffee, sweat, and tension. Aides whispered, phones rang, and every screen in sight played the same thing. The unedited footage. Carter's voice. Dalton's orders. The cover-up. The journalist Marcus had trusted hadn't waited. The story had gone live at dawn, and now the entire city was watching. Mayor Hale, can you confirm? Did you leak the footage yourself? Do you plan to resign? Marcus ignored the questions, eyes fixed straight ahead. He entered the council chamber. Cameras were already set up. The chief sat at one end of the table, hands clasped, jaw locked tight. His uniform looked too clean, his stare too controlled. The press conference began. Councilman Rios, the acting chair, spoke first. We are here to address recent revelations regarding the conduct of Officer Carter and the Springfield Police Department. The footage, now public, suggests a pattern of misconduct and falsification of reports. Murmurs rippled through the room. The tension was electric. Marcus finally leaned into the mic. It doesn't just suggest it. It proves it. Cameras zoomed in. Every eye turned to him. The system we trusted to protect this city has been used to humiliate, to suppress, to lie. Not just against me, but against anyone who looks like me. And for years we told ourselves it was complicated. It isn't. It's cowardice dressed as policy. Dalton's hand twitched. Mayor Hale, he interrupted. These are serious accusations. You're undermining an entire department on the basis of one incident. One, Marcus cut in. You think this starts with me? You think this ends with Carter? How many reports did you sign off on without ever watching the body cam footage? The room froze. Dalton's face reddened. You're out of line. No, Marcus said quietly. For once, I'm in line. The line that divides power from accountability. The cameras caught it all. Dalton's glare, the flicker of fear, the weight of truth pressing down. Rios tried to mediate. Let's keep order. But Marcus wasn't stopping. This isn't disorder. This is justice taking its first breath. The audience erupted. Shouts, gasps, camera flashes. Carter watched from the back of the room, half hidden. He looked pale, hollow. As Dalton struggled to regain control, Carter's phone buzzed again. Another message. You're next. He looked at Marcus, then at Dalton, then slipped out quietly. An hour later, Carter sat in his car outside the local news station. The engine idled. He stared at his reflection in the rearview mirror. The same uniform, the same badge, but a man he no longer recognized. He grabbed the envelope from the passenger seat. Internal memos. Falsified reports, proof of orders that came from above. He'd taken them from the evidence locker before Dalton could destroy them. His hands shook as he walked into the station. I need to speak to your producer, he said to the receptionist. The woman hesitated. Are you the officer from the video? He nodded once, her expression softened. This way. Back at City Hall, Marcus sat with Linda watching the live news feed. The anchor's voice was steady. In breaking news, Officer Raymond Carter has come forward with additional evidence, confirming the Springfield Police Department's systemic suppression of misconduct reports over a span of 5 years. Marcus exhaled slowly. He did it. Linda leaned forward. Dalton won't survive this. No, Marcus said quietly. But neither will Carter. The screen cut to footage of Carter outside the studio, surrounded by reporters. His words came through shaky but clear. I was part of it. I followed orders. But I'm done being silent. The camera zoomed in. Carter's voice broke slightly. Silence is what keeps men like me safe and men like him in danger. I won't hide behind it anymore. Dalton watched the broadcast from his office. His phone rang nonstop. The mayor's office, the union, his lawyer. He didn't answer. Instead, he poured a drink, hands trembling. A knock came. 2 internal affairs agents stood in the doorway. Chief Dalton, one said flatly, we need you to come with us. He stared at them, disbelief giving way to fury. You can't, the agent cut him off. You're under investigation for evidence tampering, perjury, and obstruction. They took his badge. The cameras waiting outside captured every step as he was escorted out. The man who had once ruled the department with silence, now reduced to it. That night, the city was divided, half celebrating, half seething. Protesters filled the streets again, this time holding signs with Carter's confession printed on them. Marcus stood at his office window once more, watching the lights flicker below. Linda entered quietly. It's done, she said. The council's calling for reforms. They'll form an independent oversight board. Marcus nodded, but his face stayed unreadable. She studied him. You should be proud. He turned toward her, eyes heavy. Pride doesn't bring back trust. It doesn't erase fear. It just reminds you how much you lost to get here. The city outside roared, chants rising, drums echoing, hope and anger merging into one voice. Marcus whispered, This isn't the end. It's the reckoning before the rebuilding. Linda watched him silent. Below, the crowd chanted his name. Cameras captured his silhouette against the window, a man standing between justice and the wreckage it left behind. In the distance, thunder rolled again. Dawn broke over a city changed, but not healed. The air outside City Hall was sharp, metallic, and a storm aftermath kind of silence. Springfield's skyline looked cleaner, but the streets below still carried the weight of what had been exposed. Marcus Hale stood before the mirror in his office, adjusting his tie with deliberate precision. His reflection stared back, older, thinner eyes rimmed with fatigue. He hadn't slept since the arrest. Dalton's face in handcuffs haunted him, not as a victory but as a warning. Every system collapses from the rot it hides. The news anchor's voice from the TV behind him carried through the stillness. Former Police Chief Dalton remains in custody pending federal charges. Officer Raymond Carter, whose testimony confirmed the cover-up is under protective watch following online threats. Marcus turned the volume down. His phone buzzed with a message. Unknown number. They won't forgive you for this. He locked the screen without replying. Linda entered, a folder in hand. The governor's office wants you in the Capitol by noon. They're offering you the interim position on the State Oversight Board. Marcus didn't look up. They want to turn justice into a photo op. They want reform, she corrected. He gave a thin smile. They want headlines, she hesitated. Carter asked if you'd visit him. Marcus froze. He's in protective custody. Yes, but he says he needs to see you before his hearing. Marcus exhaled through his nose, silent for several beats. Then he nodded. Set it up. The detention facility was sterile. White walls, humming fluorescents, everything scrubbed of warmth. Carter sat behind the glass, thinner now, his uniform replaced with county gray. When Marcus entered, Carter lifted his head slowly. Mayor, Carter, silence stretched. Then Carter said, I didn't do it to save you. Marcus sat down, folding his hands. I know. I did it because I finally saw it, Carter continued. How every decision we made, the words we used, the reports we wrote, was designed to protect us from ever being wrong. Marcus studied him. That's not seeing. That's surviving. Carter's jaw tightened. I used to think those were the same thing. The guard shifted behind them, pretending not to listen. Carter leaned closer to the glass. They'll rebuild the department. They'll rename the oversight boards. But the same men will write the training manuals, and the same fear will live in the next rookie's hand. You think you've changed something. You haven't, Marcus's voice stayed calm. Maybe not. But now they know someone's watching. Carter looked down. You ever get tired of fighting for people who'd rather not be saved? Marcus's eyes softened, but only slightly. You ever get tired of fighting to stay blind? Carter swallowed hard. What happens to me now? Marcus stood. You testify. You tell the truth. Then you live with it, like the rest of us. He turned to leave. Carter's voice stopped him. They'll come for you next, Hale. You exposed too much. Marcus looked over his shoulder. Let them. Later that afternoon, Marcus stood on the steps of City Hall again. The same place he'd been humiliated weeks before. But this time the crowd was different. Reporters stood shoulder to shoulder with citizens, protest signs mixed with thank you banners. He stepped to the podium. Cameras clicked. When I was stopped that night, he began, I wasn't a mayor. I was just another black man behind the wheel, hoping my hands wouldn't be mistaken for a threat. That fear, that quiet, constant negotiation between survival and dignity, is what we live with every day. And it's what this city has chosen to confront. He paused, letting the words settle. Today, Springfield begins its own reckoning. There will be no new paint over old cracks. We'll build transparency into every corner of this government. Body cameras, open hearings, civilian review boards with real power. And we'll remember the faces of those who said nothing, because silence is complicity. A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some cheered. Others folded their arms. Marcus raised his voice. Accountability isn't vengeance. It's love demanding honesty. The crowd erupted. In the distance, rain began to fall again, gentle, steady, washing over the marble steps. Hours later, the city quieted. Marcus sat alone in his office, jacket draped over the chair, rain tapping at the window. His phone buzzed again, and a message from an unknown number. You made your point. Now watch your back. He stared at it for a long time, then deleted it. Linda appeared in the doorway. Security's asking if you want extra detail tonight. No, Marcus said. If they want to find me, they already know where I am. She lingered. You should get some rest. He looked at her, eyes distant. Rest doesn't come easy after justice. Linda said nothing, just nodded and left. Marcus turned off the lights and walked to the window. Below, the streets glistened. The city breathing in the aftermath. He whispered more to himself than anyone. Maybe tomorrow it starts to heal. A flash of lightning lit the skyline, brief, blinding, gone in a second. The reflection in the glass caught his face. Proud, tired, scarred, unbroken. Across town, Carter sat in his cell, listening to the storm. Somewhere in the distance, he could hear faint sirens, not chasing, just moving through the rain. He closed his eyes. Tell the truth, he murmured to himself, even when it breaks you. And in a newsroom filled with the hum of monitors, a young intern watched the mayor's speech replay on screen. She whispered softly, "Maybe this time it sticks." But outside, thunder answered, low, rolling, uncertain. The reckoning had come. The rebuilding would hurt. 2 weeks later, the noise had faded. The protests, the press conferences, the constant sirens. What replaced them was quieter, heavier. Springfield had moved on, at least on the surface, but Marcus Hale knew silence wasn't peace. It was camouflage. He walked through the nearly empty corridors of City Hall. The reporters were gone now. The news vans, the protesters, the chants, all memories replaced by the hollow echo of footsteps on marble. On his desk lay a stack of documents, reform proposals, disciplinary reports, recommendations for the new oversight board. Every page reeked of compromise. Linda stood by the window, arms folded. "They watered down the civilian board's authority again," she said. "Union pressure. Political threats. The same story." Marcus skimmed the memo, eyes flat. "They'll call it progress. They always do." He sighed, setting the papers aside. "The city's afraid of losing control even now. They want change that doesn't cost them anything." Linda looked at him carefully. "And you?" Marcus gave a tired smile. "I stopped believing in painless change a long time ago." A knock interrupted them. A young aide entered, clutching a tablet. "Sir, you should see this." The aide turned the screen toward them, a headline flashing across every local channel. "Former Officer Carter found dead in apparent suicide." The room fell still. Linda's voice broke first. "When?" "This morning," the aide said quietly. "They found him in the safe house." Marcus took the tablet, scanning the article. The official statement read like a script. Mental strain, public scrutiny, immense pressure. The kind of language used when truth was inconvenient. He whispered, almost to himself. They couldn't silence him alive, so they did it after. Linda's eyes glistened. "You think?" "I don't think," Marcus said. "I know." He stood abruptly, chair scraping the floor. "Call the press. I'm making a statement." Linda hesitated. "Marcus, maybe wait. This will explode again," he turned sharply. "It's already exploding. They just learned to make the fire sound like thunder." By noon, the briefing room was full again. Cameras, flashbulbs, familiar faces. Marcus stepped up to the podium, the grief buried under his composure. "Officer Carter's death is not a tragedy of weakness," he began. "It's a tragedy of silence. He spoke when others wouldn't, and now he's gone. You can call it suicide. I call it consequence." The room stirred. A reporter shouted, "Are you implying foul play?" Marcus's gaze cut through the noise. "I'm implying that when institutions build walls high enough, truth either suffocates or jumps." The questions came fast, overlapping. But Marcus didn't flinch. "You all want closure," he said. "You won't get it. Not from me, not from this city. Because closure means forgetting, and forgetting is how this started." He walked off the stage mid-question, ignoring the chaos behind him. That evening, Marcus sat in his car outside Carter's widow's house. The street was quiet, the windows dim. He didn't go in. He couldn't. Instead, he wrote a short note, folded it, and slipped it into the mailbox. It read, "He told the truth." "I'll make sure they remember that." As he drove off, the radio played a segment about police reform across the state. Other cities were following Springfield's lead. His name came up. The mayor who faced the badge and didn't blink. He switched the radio off. The praise felt hollow. Later that night, Marcus met with the new interim chief of police, a woman named Angela Ruiz, sharp-eyed, no nonsense, the kind of leader who understood that transparency came at a price. She placed a folder on his desk. "These are the disciplinary reviews from Dalton's old unit. More than half of them were never processed. Internal affairs buried them." Marcus flipped through the pages. Familiar names. "Familiar reports, burn it down," he said. Ruiz blinked. "Excuse me?" "The entire unit. Dissolve it. Rebuild from scratch. No transfers, no promotions, no redeployments. End it. That'll start a war with the union, then start one." She held his gaze, then nodded. "Yes, Mayor." After she left, Marcus sat alone in the dark, the city lights flickering outside. He opened his drawer and pulled out the dashcam photo still image. The moment the flashlight hit his face, fear caught mid-frame. He stared at it for a long time. That night, the city slept. The news cycle turned. Social media moved on. But the streets held the memory. A whisper that wouldn't fade. He was the mayor. And they still drew their guns. In the early hours before dawn, Marcus walked the streets of the neighborhood where it had all begun. The intersection looked the same. Same cracked asphalt, same flickering streetlight. He stood there for a while, hands in his coat pockets. The silence was absolute. No cameras, no crowd. Just the hum of power lines and the faint rumble of a city pretending to heal. He whispered, "You were right, Carter. They'll rebuild the silence." Then he looked up, jaw set. "But I'll break it again." A police cruiser passed by slowly. The officer inside glanced at him, then recognized the face, the posture. He nodded, uncertainly respectful. Marcus didn't return the nod. He just watched the car disappear into the dark. Back at City Hall, the rain started again. The sound filled the empty corridors like a pulse. Marcus Hale stood in the doorway of his office, eyes fixed on the city skyline. It was still broken, still divided, still his, he whispered. No peace without truth. And as lightning split the sky, his reflection in the glass, solemn, resolute, became indistinguishable from the city itself. The city had begun to move differently. Streets once lined with protest banners now carried commuters, school buses, delivery vans. The headlines had shifted to new stories, new scandals. But beneath the surface, Springfield hummed with unease, a city learning to live with what it had seen. Marcus Hale stood before a crowd gathered in the central square, where a bronze statue of a Civil War general had once towered. The statue was gone now, removed after a public vote. In its place stood a blank pedestal waiting for something honest. Rain threatened again, dark clouds pressing low. Cameras rolled. City employees, clergy, students, and officers stood together, not united but coexisting. Marcus approached the microphone. His voice was low, steady. "A month ago, I stood here as a man who believed that justice could be clean. I don't believe that anymore." The crowd listened in silence. "Justice," he continued, "costs more than anyone wants to pay. It costs careers, illusions, comfort. Sometimes it costs lives, but it's the only thing that makes peace real." He looked out over the faces, some grateful, some skeptical. Carter's death reminded us that truth has no armor, but his choice gave this city a mirror. What we see in it will decide who we become. From the back, a voice called out, "Then what now, Mayor?" Marcus didn't hesitate. "Now we build something that doesn't need heroes to stay honest." Applause rippled through the crowd, slow, uncertain, but growing. Linda stood at the edge of the stage, watching. When he stepped down, she handed him a folder. "You'll want to read this," she said. "The state committee just confirmed your appointment to lead the oversight board." He took it, flipping the folder open. "They still think reform is paperwork. They think you'll make it more than that." He gave a half smile. "They think too much." That night, Marcus returned home, and for once early. The apartment was quiet, the air thick with the faint scent of rain. He poured a glass of water, turned off his phone, and sat at the table staring at nothing. His mother had left a voicemail earlier. "You did what you had to do, son. Your grandfather would have been proud." He hadn't listened to it all the way through. Pride wasn't what he felt. It was fatigue, and the kind that sits behind your ribs, heavy and permanent. The doorbell rang. He opened it to find Angela Ruiz, still in uniform. "Thought you'd want to see this," she said, handing him a USB drive. Body cam footage from a rookie last night. White officer, black teen traffic stop. Ended with a handshake, not a citation. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You're showing me good news now?" Ruiz shrugged. "Figured we both needed to know it's possible." He nodded, a faint smile ghosting across his face. "Keep the camera rolling always." She gave a small salute and left. Later, Marcus sat on his couch, the TV flickering in the background, an interview replaying his own words from that morning. Justice costs more than comfort. He muted the sound and leaned back, eyes closed. The silence wasn't oppressive now. It was fragile, earned. He thought of Carter, of the flashing lights, the slur over the radio, the cold glass of the interrogation room, Dalton's eyes when the badge was taken. Every memory a scar, but also a map. He whispered, "You paid the cost. I'll carry it." Thunder rumbled softly outside in the morning. Marcus returned to City Hall. He met with the Oversight Committee, half of whom still wore skepticism like armor. "The reforms are too aggressive," one member said. "You're dismantling decades of structure." "That's the point," Marcus replied. Another leaned forward. "If we push too hard, the department will revolt." "Then let them," Marcus said. "Change that doesn't offend the comfortable isn't change." They fell silent. The vote passed narrowly. The Civilian Oversight Board was officially permanent. Marcus walked out of the chamber without celebration. That evening, he visited the old intersection one last time. The rain had stopped. Street lights shimmered against puddles like fractured mirrors. He stood in the same spot, where it all began and where Carter's flashlight had cut through the dark and turned. His fear into defiance, he took out his phone, recording a short video message to the city. His face was calm, eyes unflinching. "This corner doesn't need a plaque," he said. "It needs to stay what it is, ordinary. Because that's where change always starts." He ended the recording, slipped the phone into his pocket, and started walking. Behind him, the sound of tires on wet pavement echoed faintly, just another car passing through. But he didn't look back. Weeks later, the blank pedestal in the square was no longer empty. A new plaque had been mounted, simple and unadorned. "Justice begins when silence ends." In memory of those who spoke when it cost them everything. People stopped to read it every day, some pausing, some walking past, and somewhere. In a quiet apartment overlooking the city, Marcus Hale worked late, drafting new legislation under the same lamplight that had witnessed every victory and every loss. Outside, Springfield breathed, wounded, restless, alive. The lights of City Hall glowed steady through the rain, not as a symbol of purity but of persistence. Because truth, once lit, doesn't go out. It burns slow, it costs deeply, but it stays. And in that glow, fragile, flickering, defiant, the city finally began to change.